I'm going to make this one short. I just want to say this for a few minutes. The saying when people say, only you can control how you feel, nobody can control it for you. I agree with that. See, it's layers to that statement, right? It's layers to that statement because when you make just a broad statement that only you can control how you feel and nobody else can control it, well, say that to the people who have been put in camps. Been put in those camps where they beaten and they left to starve. It's no matter what else could be going on with them that's terrible inside those camps. Like for example, like what's recently might have happened with China, but it's happened in different parts of the world too. Okay, where people are put in camps. Okay, you have some people that's locked in them camps that just might get to a place where they're not letting the person control how they feel, even though they're getting beaten every day. But how easy is that to get to? How easy is it to get to that way of thinking when you're constantly under attack and beaten every day and you are in a position where you're not in physical control? So what you have to do is literally detach from your body. You have to finally say that you are not your body in order for them to not be hurt. I used to see this in slavery movies. When brown women, the characters that were playing, that brown women were playing, that was constantly attacked and beaten and raped, they were finally saying that I'm not my body, I'm not my body. So you had to finally get to a point in their mind where they say they're not their body. But that's not how they were originally thinking. It would hurt them in the beginning. It would hurt them. It hurts. It doesn't feel good to be raped. If that was the case, that a lot of them were raped. Because see, the reason why I say if that was the case, because that was put out there. Saying that a group of people was raped over and over again is like putting something in the subconscious of these people. Why not just say that it could be possible that maybe some brown women and some white men maybe had relationships? Why is that hard to say? My great-grandmother, I think great-great-grandmother had a relationship with a white man. She was married to him. My great-grandmother was biracial. Why is it hard to say? And my great-grandmother, if she was alive now, she would probably be close to 150 or something. So what was her mother then? Could have been what you would call a slave. Was she a slave? Would my great-grandmother say that she would have been a slave? Okay, the stories are changing. Now we're getting the truth out now. So why is it so hard to say that maybe some brown women could have just had? To me, it's less victimizing, right? It's less victimizing to say that maybe perhaps some brown women actually had relationships with white men. And definitely a lot of brown men had relationships with white women. We see that going on to this day. So a whole lot of that going on. So a lot of times when they were probably hung, if they were hung, lynched, a lot of times they were lynched for messing with white women. Okay? But, like I said, they put a lot of stories out there to put it in the subconscious of brown people to constantly make them feel inferior, like somebody's like they're inferior. Okay, like something happened to you and that constantly has to be put in you have to be reminded of some kind of trauma. And then the trauma might not even be as severe as they making it seem in media. Now, it's not to say that stuff didn't happen, but it might not be the way they making it look in media. The way they making things look so bad in media, like they magnetizing it to really, really dig it deep in your subconscious to create that to create a mind. It's like to create some thoughts around that. Okay? But what I'm saying is this, though. Some of the women that played those characters is what I'm saying is that the case of being raped over and over and beaten over and over again and flogged or whatever. And you finally had to get to the place where they say, I'm not my body. But it's still painful. You're still going to bleed. It still hurts. Okay? So a lot of times, and a lot of brown people, a lot of ancestors are not happy to this day. But a lot of them are not happy to this day. It's not necessarily because of the story the stories that was told. But it's because a lot of them did lose their lands, and so a lot of them did lose their lands unfairly. And in a way, until they get what they're supposed to get, until they get their payback, the other person is kind of always going to control them, because when you are in a position where somebody gets to keep taking and taking from you, and you're almost defenseless to do anything back to them, and they keep taking and taking, you can't keep telling yourself that they're not going to control the way you feel, because you're going to feel some kind of way that somebody keeps taking from you and you can't do nothing about it. It's like you're about to eat a meal and they get to snatch this plate right from under you, and you say, okay, well, I'm not going to let it bother me because you can't control the way I feel. Okay, then you work for a week, and you're supposed to get your money so you can pay your bills, and they don't pay you, and you say, okay, well, I'm not going to let you control the way I feel because I'm bigger than that. At some point, it's going to bother you. So yeah, now you don't want to let it completely rule your life, okay? But as in some cases, it's hard not to say that. See, I'm looking at situations that a lot of people are going through, that it's kind of hard not to let hard situations rule their life. Look in the case of trafficking, human trafficking. People probably being cut while they're alive. Is it hard not to let those emotions and feelings get to them, and they being cut, their organs being cut out while they still alive and they can feel everything? How are they going to just ignore that it's happening? I always had a problem with that saying, because it's not true. Yeah, in some cases, you don't have to let somebody control how you feel. I agree with that, but in some cases, it's like a lot of people are not in control of themselves. A lot of people are not in control of themselves, and if you're in a position where somebody got you locked down and they are taking advantage of your body every day, it's hard not to feel it, and it's hard to ignore it. Okay? And if a person say, well, I'll never be in that position, you better check those codes, because that type of stuff is programmed. And you never know what's coming. You take each day as a new day, but really, no day is a new day. We're just under a bunch of programs. And you got to know how you're programmed. You got to see what's the program. And if you don't like what you're seeing in that program, do something to change it. So a lot of things that happened to those people, they didn't see it coming. But yeah, I just want to say that real quickly, that I do understand though, like a lot of things you don't have to let it get to you, and it might get to you at first, but then you get to a place where you know how to deal with it better. That I understand. But a lot of people that had to learn how to deal with things, and they had to learn how to transmute some energy that could have been sent their way, and they learned how to transmute it. And it took them practice. They didn't start off like that. It took them practice to get to that kind of place in their mind. It took practice. That's not how it started off. People make it sound like you're just automatically supposed to be like that from the beginning, and it doesn't work that way. And then that person, just because they're in a position where they're finally not letting somebody control them, is because they finally are no longer physically around that person either, because when you're physically around that person, it's kind of hard that they never get to you, especially if it's a case like domestic violence. See, if it's that kind of case and you just have to get away from them, then you can work on, all this stuff working with your mind. But if you're in a position where you're constantly being attacked, or somebody else trying to take your identity and stealing your identity, and now you can't access your records and stuff, so somebody else done hack your identity, and now you can't get into your own accounts. I've heard that happen to somebody. It's hard not to let that get to you in the beginning, because now your identity is completely stolen, and you can't even get to your finances. You can't get to your funds. And then when you try to explain to people that you can't pay your rent, they're not trying to hear it. You try to explain to them that your identity was stolen and you show them evidence, they're not trying to hear it. So now, because other people are lacking empathy for you, now it's hard to get over it, because if people have some type of empathy for you in your situation, and give you time to figure it out and give you some grace, then it'll be easier to have a better attitude. But then because you are kind of in a world that lacks empathy, and they don't care if you're on your deathbed, you're going to have to pay this or whatever. And I've seen that happen so many times in healthcare, that because there's so much empathy and love lacking in the world, it's hard not to let it phase you, because people don't help each other. not like people should. Okay. When I'm saying people, I'm talking about folks that's in a position to give you some time. I'm talking about people that's actually in a position to help give you time if you need some extra time or whatever it is, or if they got resources but they choose not to give it to you because they just feel like they don't want to share nothing with you. See, when people are very just cutthroat and competitive like that, where a lot of times they want to keep information to themselves, and it's almost like you have to have a charismatic type of personality to pull this type of stuff. That's why narcissists get what they want, because they have the most charismatic personalities. And so they can make up all them excuses for not paying rent and doing this and that, because they are so charismatic in their personality, and they know how to play with words that they get what they want. And that's the magic of the narcissist in a lot of ways, because when you try to be an honest person, they lack empathy for the honest people. That's why narcissism grows, because folks lack empathy for authentic people. There's a lack of empathy for people who's authentic, and it's more empathy for people who are narcissistic. It's more empathy for them, and that's why narcissism to me keeps growing, because those are the ones that get mostly what they want. And being honest is like it's doing no good. People don't like honesty. They like for you to lie to them. Just look at who gets paid the most online. Okay, people telling the truth versus people who are just putting out whatever folks want to hear, right? I mean, we can see that online right now. Who's got the most views? Who gets the most money? Even YouTube pushes them. Okay, they have an engine that pushes them, a machine that pushes them to be successful. So, I mean, because that type of content and those type of people get so much support, that's why narcissism keeps growing, and people feel like that's who they have to be to make it in the world they believe it is. Okay, but anyway, that's it. I'm gonna have to go, but I was just talking about, the saying that, people don't control how you feel, and that is true. You want to get control over yourself, but it's not as simple as just saying that, though. It's not as simple as just saying that, and some people never get control, and I don't want to judge them for never getting control. You don't want to judge them for that either. Yeah, you can get control over your life, but some people never get there. Some people, whatever situation they could be in, they never get to that type of mentality. Okay, and it's not to judge them for it. So even though that saying sounds so good and it sounds right, that's not the case for so many people. And so anyway, with that said, I'll talk later.